Greetings and salutations, folks, and welcome once again, as always, to another helping of Mr H's Hot Pot. Today I'm joined by Mrs H.
Hello.
And little Toby James, as you can probably hear in the background there. Now today we've come to Mount Sion, which is on the Bolton Radcliffe border, here in formerly Lancashire, today Greater Manchester. Now in my previous video I went and visited a steam crane which was way in the hills in the Forest of Bowland near a place called Sledburn, and I mentioned a steam crane that was located at the side of the canal bank at Mount Sion, and today we've come for completion to take a look at it, and it's here behind me. Little Toby, he's just demonstrating where you would stand on it to operate it. Now this particular crane has featured in one of Fred Dibnah's documentaries, albeit very briefly. I'll try and put that clip in for you now, and Fred, way back when, was walking up the canal bank here just behind Mrs H.
This is the Bolton Bury Canal, and as a small boy I used to come along here with my father on my bicycle, and to me it was quite an exciting world. You know, there were like coal mines and cotton mills and all sorts of wonderful things like incline railways. Really interesting stuff if you like industrial archaeology. Like this crane here, the first time I saw it, it were almost complete. And now, of course, there's hardly anything left of it. You know, it had all the brass on and chimney on it and the chain on it and everything. And what it used to do, the boats used to pull up here and they had boxes in full of coal, and the crane used to lift one out and swing round and drop it down into the paper mill.
Now, unfortunately, Fred spoke about this crane for less than a minute. Obviously, his later documentaries, he wasn't given much time. It was all scripted for him. And personally speaking, I always prefer his earlier documentaries where he was just left to talk about things at his own pace. However, Mr H does not have any time constraints on his videos, and I can talk for as long as you can listen. And we're currently by the side of what used to be the Manchester, Bolton and Bury Canal. And the reason this steam crane is here is just over that fence there behind it used to be a bleach works. And what used to happen was, to power the bleach works, they would get coal from Ladyshaw Colliery, which is about a mile back there. Funnily enough, we parked the old jalopy, Mrs H, close to where the old colliery used to be, and walked past the house there. It was one of the old colliery buildings. And it used to make its short journey via canal barge to this spot here, and then they would use this crane to empty the canal barge and drop it into a valley just over there. I'll just take the camera off Mrs H and I'll show you where the old bleach works used to be, and you can see that it's a fair old drop into this valley, and as you can see, that's a fair old drop down to where the bleach works used to stand and this crane used to serve. Now in 1913 the old bleach works burnt down. It was replaced by a paper mill, which is what Fred was talking about in that brief clip that I showed you earlier. And it's unknown whether or not this steam crane then served the paper mill, because it's unknown when this crane stopped being used. I should imagine once they stopped using the canal at the side of us. But what we'll do now, we'll take a look at this one, because it is in slightly better condition than the one up in Sledburn, although that boiler has seen better days. Right, I'll hand the camera back to Mrs H and we'll take a look around it. So what, Potters, to my knowledge this is exactly the same model as is in Sledburn. The only difference with this one is it's on a stone plinth, as you can just see there beneath Toby's feet. What they've done, these would normally be mounted onto a bogie and they'd be the locomotive, so they would run on rails. But this one, obviously, it doesn't need that, it's just in a static position. And I should imagine the little bit of land that it's still sat on here belongs to what used to be the paper mill and bleach works, although the fence sort of works around it. Now, they have put this Harris fence up since. There are pictures which I'll put in for you. And you can see that it isn't here, this Harris fencing. The reason I think they've put this here is that boiler is rotting away at the bottom. Now, one of my commentators, Mrs H, on my other video, they was worried about the state of the boiler, and I said, well, that one's pretty safe. And I thought this one was in better condition, but actually, it's in a worse condition, isn't it?
It is.
You'd just like to follow me, Mrs H. Now, a number of these openings are supposed to be here because what there would have been is an ash pan in here at one point. You can just see that's loose there. I'll not try and take it out. And obviously, when the fire had gone out, they'd remove the ash pan and to be rinse and repeat, so to speak. But this is grade 2 listed today, and there is a friends of this particular crane, and they're the ones that painted it black. Originally it was just rusting away, and I believe that it still belongs to whoever owns that factory over there.
It's impressive.
It's very impressive, yeah, especially with the jib being up. I think that puts a lot to it, doesn't it?
It does.
Now this one, you can actually see the maker's number on it. We'll take a look at it. And there is the maker's number of this one, number 3184. That's the number that this crane was when it came out of the factory at Leeds. Thomas Smith and Sons made these of Rodley and Leeds. Now, we did go back to Sledburn, we took Toby, and depending upon when I upload this particular video, whether I do it in sequence or whether I put the other one on afterwards, on our second visit to Sledburn, I did find the number of that crane, and I think it's number 4784 or something like that. I can't actually remember off the top of my head, but I did manage to find it. So they are pretty much in sequence, aren't they? Although this crane is obviously older. And this one, they believe, dates from about the 1800s. So it's been here a long time. And you can see there's more gadgets and gizmos at the top there. On the other one, it was all done in, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, don't know if people have been taking pot shots at it.
Well, yeah. And this is where the fire would have been, in this opening, but it's obviously just rotted away. And in there we can see all the poor state of the boiler. Overgrown in there, just rotting away. The mechanics and gears and pedals of it appear to be the same, so I would guesstimate that this is indeed a 5-ton crane, meaning it can lift, or it would have lifted back in the day, 5 tons, which is an awful lot for the 1800s. There's no cables on it anymore, those have gone. But the gears and everything are still in place. And there we go, that's how it would have turned. But the walls of this are quite thick. They need to be, obviously, it's a pressure boiler.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this one, it's been here all this time. And it's a shame, really. Perhaps they should do something with it a little bit more. You know, get it restored a little bit, because at least this one, people do use this canal bank. We've been interrupted about half a dozen times, haven't we, Mrs.
Yeah,
Hicks?
people walk up here with dogs and things.
You know, coming past on bikes and things like that, which is fair enough. It's making use of the old canal bank, so perhaps they should do something with it. But it's all cost, isn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose. Obviously, these parts weren't on the one at Sledburn. You could see where they'd been. There was nothing attached to these wheels. That one did say Smith Rodley on it, where these don't, so you don't know, maybe they did little design differences. Like with anything, it's like cars and things, isn't it, today? As time moves on, they make additions, but it's good to see it's still here in its original place. Now that's one thing they do claim with this one, that this one's the only one left in England in its original place, but I would argue that the one in Sledburn is also in its original position, would you, Mrs. A?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Now, the reason I believe the Friends of Mount Sion crane got Fred Dibnah involved, I think they made him an honorary member or something like that, one of the chairmen on the board, was to try and use his profile to raise awareness of the plight of this crane and make local people aware that it was actually here. Unfortunately, it didn't really work out, although they did manage to get it a grade 2 listed status, which means it can't be removed, although, as we've seen with the other videos of mine and grade 2 listed structures, Westwood House, they can be removed if people want it. Anyway, I think we'll wrap it up here, Mrs. H, and head off back home, and then I can edit up all this footage ready for people's edification. So, until the next time, from myself, Mrs. H and little Toby James, here at Mount Sion, by the old steam crane, it is bye-bye for now.